Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here to walk you through another day of tech delights. This is already my second podcast of the day, so let's get right to it. It is April 3rd, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. If you thought Facebook was our only target when it comes to shady or just crappy business dealings, well, I have good news for you. We air out everyone's dirty laundry equally. Facebook just has a lot more of it. But today, we set our sights on a business that is just as big and far-reaching as Facebook. In fact, it might even be the platform you're listening to this on. We're talking about YouTube. Subscribe and smash that bell. Bloomberg dug deep into the culture of YouTube, and it came out a little stinky on the other side. Let's take a look. YouTube executives ignored warnings, letting toxic videos run rampant. That's your headline, and yes, that piece is just as long and gross as the headline suggests. But first, a little context. YouTube channels are just like assholes. Everyone has one. And the power of YouTube and the internet at large is that, like an asshole, you have the opportunity to spray your wherever you want. But for every quality channel that's out there, there are 10 tinfoil-wearing crazies with iPhones that are ready to explain in exquisite detail how the moon landings were faked, or how the world is flat, or how vaccinations will melt little Billy's face off. In other words, amazing piles of spewing from their assholes. But who are we to say what is good and what is bad? The folks at YouTube haven't been ready to make that call so far, free speech and all that, but it goes further than that. You see, the YouTube executives in question have long been more concerned with keeping viewers engaged rather than monitoring the toxicity of the videos themselves. Employees wanted to flag troubling videos that stepped up to the line of policy without crossing it. Others wanted to track their popularity, and still others wanted to create an internal vertical that showed how popular these videos were. According to Bloomberg, quote, each time they got the same response: don't rock the boat. The problem is that YouTube uses AI to determine what video to serve up next, and it's based on a number of criteria, a big one of which is user engagement, and studies have shown that the closer a video gets to a policy line, the higher the engagement. If it bleeds, it leads. People are fascinated with the dark corners of the psyche, so while they may only have 30 seconds to watch a cat playing with a ball of string, they'll spend hours learning how 9/11 was a conspiracy to cover up alien invasions and sell more Dr. Pepper. This podcast not sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Or is it? The result is that these videos will get more promoted by the AI. It's a never-ending cycle of engagement, and sure, it makes more money for Google. Of course, according to a PR spokesman, quote, generally extreme content does not perform well on the platform. Oh, right, of course. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. And so is Gizmodo, who rightly called out this assertion by pointing out numerous extreme videos in mainstream channels like Breitbart, CNN, Fox News, and the Young Turks, all of whose most popular videos were extremist videos. But at the end of the day, YouTube doesn't have an algorithm problem. It has a people problem. And the fact of the matter is that people suck, and people are drawn to the extreme and often the macabre. But the problem that YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and every other tech site where people gather en masse is not trying to police content, it's trying to police people, and that's not an easy task. Of course, that doesn't mean we're letting YouTube off the hook, far from it. The message of, quote, don't rock the boat can't be allowed to perpetuate. Just because a problem is hard to solve doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And once again, I could pontificate about this for hours, but it's a 7-minute podcast. So go check out the Bloomberg piece, and in the meantime, let's head on over to the roundup. Time of death, April 2nd, 2019, 2:39 p.m. That's what time Google finally pulled the plug on Google+, the social network that never really gained steam beyond a very solid core of dedicated users. It's a little sad, not for me, I never used it, but for those who invested in the platform. You might still be able to get your data out of the platform if you need it. Google developed a tool for that, which you can get from the article in the show notes. RIP Google+, I never missed you. And in light of the death of Google Plus and Google Inbox, Ars Technica writes a piece that argues that all of these service shutdowns are damaging to the Google brand. And to a point, I can see it. With Google being an ecosystem on its own, it's hard to build up trust that an app that you use and love won't just get transitioned or abandoned. But on the other hand, this is Google we're talking about here. Google only really shuts down or transitions services that aren't being used on a wide scale. You can't look at small but vocal minorities who love Google Inbox as representative of literally billions of people who just use Gmail. The ongoing joke is that everything Google makes is beta, and there's a reason for that. Rest assured, if a service of Google becomes popular, it'll stick around. But Google deciding to shut down one of its 7 messaging services isn't cause for alarm. It'd be more alarming if it kept it going. I'm not a music industry analyst for sure, but even I found the fact that streaming music accounts for nearly half of all music revenues worldwide very interesting. It seems the death of the disc is approaching, which in some ways is a shame. As far as I could tell, these numbers did not include touring and merchandising, so Metallica is probably going to be okay here. By the way, Metallica whiskey is now on sale, if that's your drink. Get back to me, Lars, when you start slinging rum. Yesterday, I bragged that I had gotten tickets for Avengers Endgame on Friday, April 27th, Tristan. And it appears that I was one of the lucky ones. Websites for major movie chains like AMC and Regal suffered greatly under the load of fans vying for tickets. Sites like Fandango had wait times of over an hour. It's basically what happens when everyone on the internet decides to all do one thing at the same time. No word yet on whether or not Avengers Endgame will hit $1 billion with a B dollars in sales before the movie comes out, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Sitosa and UC Berkeley asked the question, why do buses bunch? You may have seen this before. You're standing around waiting for a late bus and all of a sudden like 3 of them pull up. Well, what gives? Well, Sitosa came up with a fun little visualization, okay, it's kind of like a little game, that shows why buses bunch up like that. Basically, if a bus is delayed for any reason, slow people getting on, loading a bike, etc., it gets delayed and catches more people at that stop, but it also allows more people to gather on stops up ahead, meaning that they take a long time to get on. Meanwhile, the bus behind you has less and less people to pick up, which means its stops go faster. Voila! Bunching! If you're an urban planner, this is fascinating. If not, just go play the game. And finally, Reddit asked the question, what's the greatest upset in sports history? And I think the nod has to go to Cliff Young. Australia hosts a 5-day, 875-kilometer race every year, and in 1983, 61-year-old Cliff Young showed up for the race in overalls and work boots and lined up for the race. At the time, the winning strategy was basically to run for 18 hours and sleep for 6 hours. After 5 days, you finish. Yeah, well, Cliff rewrote those rules because he just ran for 5 days without sleeping. After the race, he said he imagined he was chasing after sheep in a storm for 5 days, and he was 61 years old. Hats off to you, Cliff. To this day, the race is still run by people who just stopped sleeping for 5 days. I'm tired just reporting on this story. So that is going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. Also be sure to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.